Hey REVEW family, keep it I keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, reviewing music for the love of music, and welcome back to the metal Tempest. And in this video, I'm going to be covering the new Seyr record entitled Flux. So these guys are a German and a Syrian progressive metal band, and I stumbled across this release when I was searching for some underground releases to cover and put on your guys' radar that may slip through the cracks, and I was very captivated by the bands that were listed on this band's Bandcamp as being influences. So I want to just say, Mastodon, Architects, Slipknot, Opeth, New Order, World Music, and much more. And yeah, that can seem like throwing just a randomized list of bands from so many different genres into the fold and trying to say that they all influenced you. And I will say that this band, if they are influenced by all of those bands, some may bleed through more than others, but they certainly don't wear their influence on their sleeve, and I think this band maintains their own identity perfectly because this record, just bluntly put, is great. At its core, it's a progressive death metal record a la Opeth. I think that is the band amongst their influences that I'm getting the most whiffs from. But it's not something that they are like worshiping Opeth or anything, because these tracks are multifaceted, very well orchestrated, and combine a lot of different influences into one that leaves this record sounding like some weird, warped, twisted up grouping of so many influences into one that you forget where you started. But it has a great level of intelligence to the songwriting. And the record is very much full of surprises. Going into the first track, I didn't really know what to expect, and what you receive is one of the most progressively dense tracks I've heard from a prog record opener this year, maybe just in general this year from any record. It starts in a place of what could be compared to, say, a Tool track. The thumping percussion, the steadily building guitar riffs, and the Maynard James Keenan signature understated monotone sort of sullen deep vocals that come out, and those carry on throughout the entire track at various points, almost being like a commanding spoken word sort of vocalist where they barely have rhythm to them at times, and they're more so this dark presence amidst the instrumentation. And even though the track starts in a very, I would say, soft and somber way, the bursting, explosive, fast-paced riffs and drumming that comes about in the mid to latter half of the track makes this feel like it is starting in one place and carrying you through a story all the way to completion, and it's only contained in one track. And that's something I should mention is, besides some instrumentally led interlude tracks on this record, most of these tracks are pretty long, and there aren't many tracks on the record despite it being almost 40 minutes of material. I also gotta commend just how damn well these transitions work from track to track. From the very first track, when it starts to settle and simmer and lead you in gently into resonance, it makes so much cohesive sense from a songwriting perspective that it feels like I am entering the next page, the next chapter of what this record's going to entail. And while I will say that I think resonance could have gotten to where it was going to go to a little quicker, and the build-up sometimes feels a little tedious upon re-listen as they're gradually getting you towards that tension-building experience, once again, that explosion feels a lot different than the first track, but still hits you in the same core way of frivolous, heavy, progressive death metal instrumentation a la Opeth, but the vocals start to become more swallowing, almost more like insulated and really hard to penetrate, and it isn't even the final major progression that this specific track Resonance takes, because there is another progression that happens near the latter half of the track where it is so much more beautiful and melodic and harmonious, with these vocals just soaring over this mix in such a gorgeous way. And then you get into Satori and Dust, which I don't personally want to speak for the band because I don't know what they were attempting to accomplish, but what I personally think these two tracks are is the bridging of the gap between the first half of this record and the second half of this record. Because I noticed, at least for me, that the first half of this record, even though it is heavy at points, especially on the latter half of Resonance, it still had that pretty layering of progressive metal, felt welcoming. And Satori is a rather, I would say, minimalistic approach to an interlude track with very pretty riffs, whereas Dust takes you into more of an expansive, tension-building experience with these mounting percussive elements and a very creepy and unsettling rhythmic lead from the guitar. And I believe that I was right, because the track that follows Dust, which I probably am going to mispronounce, Wassukanni, or I'm just gonna say the track that comes after Dust is the heaviest track that has been up until this point, in my opinion, the heaviest track just in general. It leaves no room to breathe. It is a claustrophobically insulated progressive death metal rager with unrestrained, tortured vocals that sound equal parts like they're screaming their brains off, but also having this swallowing deep resonance to them that carries over throughout the entire track. And it settles in a very pretty way at the end of this track and leads you into Flux, which it's hard to make heads or tails of this track. On one hand, I really do like the way that it feels, once again, like sort of the culmination of all of the influences into one. But some of the progressions feel like they are maybe rushing a little bit to encapsulate the entire record. It's still a very good sounding track, and the ending portion of it, especially as it just simmers down with these vocals that linger a little bit longer than you maybe thought they would have, it does feel like a logical conclusion and a logical ending. And besides the progressions maybe feeling like they're trying to hit on everything that they have to hit before they run out of time, maybe this track could have been even longer than it already is, I have really no complaints about this track. It's a great ender. Yeah, I found this to be one of the most enthralling, well-paced, well-put-together, and coolest progressive metal records that I have heard this year. And even if it has some flaws that prevent it from being perfect or near perfect, I really just found myself enthralled by the instrumentation, the great production, the awesome influences that come together to create this record, and just the logical progressions and transitions that this band takes to pace the track very properly. I just suggest this to anyone who wants one of the best progressive metal records that I've heard this year, and that's coming from someone that listens to a lot of progressive music. Overall, though, I'm going to be giving this album a 7.5 out of 10, and that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Seyr record, Flux? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss this record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.